What's up, my friend? Abby here, and welcome back to Writer's Life Wednesdays, where we come together to help you make your story matter and make your author dreams come true. This is part 2 of the video that I did last week, all about writing the game-changing midpoint. What it is, what it isn't, and how to write an amazing, riveting, gripping plot twist that will surprise your characters and surprise your readers. So go watch part 1 if you haven't seen it already. We go into the actual principles of writing an amazing plot twist and debunk some myths. Plus, I give you guys some prompts that you can ask yourself about your plot twist to make it the best it can possibly be. But I realize that principles are kind of vague, and this all makes so much more sense when you have examples. So today we're doing a case study with story examples, kind of like we did for the inciting incident, only this time we're going over plot twists from a variety of genres. Even genres that it seems like a plot twist, like you wouldn't be able to write a plot twist into that, like YA contemporary romance. Let's get into it.
Why does your story matter? Good question. What if I told you that there's a science behind every great story? I don't just teach you how to write. I teach you how to change the world with your story and make your author dreams come true.
Okay, before we jump into the story examples, let's go over the principles, the recap of the principles from the last video, just to refresh our memories. A great plot twist is more than just a radical change in the expected direction of the plot. It changes the game for your characters, and most importantly, your protagonist, which then impacts the plot in a meaningful way because it impacts the protagonist's goal. External conflict, the plot, is all about what happens, but internal conflict, the story, is about why it matters. A plot twist is just an unexpected thing happening unless it directly impacts the internal conflict of the characters. Just like an inciting incident that doesn't specifically matter to the characters, a plot twist can fall just as flat if not well written. Remember, a game-changing midpoint doesn't have to be some epic and crazy twist of fate. It can be as dramatic as everything the protagonist believes is actually a lie, or as simple as the protagonist realizes they're falling in love with their nemesis. I have tons of examples of this, but I had to limit myself for the sake of time, so I narrowed it down to just 4 examples, and they're all very different from each other, so hopefully it will give you some insight and inspiration into crafting your amazing, unique plot twist, no matter what genre you're writing. Also, I think it goes without saying, but spoiler alert. I'm about to spoil the plot twists in all of these examples, so hopefully you've read or seen them already, or else are willing to sacrifice the pleasure of surprise for the sake of your novel. Let's start with the plot twist that I immediately think of whenever I'm talking about plot twists and whenever someone says plot twist, because this plot twist literally freaked me out so much. I was not okay for days. Like, I think it took me literally 3 days to appreciate how brilliant it was because it messed me up so bad. And that is the game-changing midpoint in A Beautiful Mind. This film may be considered a historical drama, but to me it feels way more like a psychological thriller, especially after the plot twist. But let's start at the beginning. John Nash is a brilliant mathematician obsessed with success and recognition in his field of study. He wants to come up with a truly original idea that will set him apart from the rest and satisfy his desire to be acknowledged as the genius he knows he is.
John, exactly what's the difference between genius and most genius? Quite a lot.
After graduating from Princeton, Nash is hired by the Secret Service to decode Russian ciphers, which quickly spirals out of control as he struggles to maintain a personal life separate from his classified missions. Nash is clearly paranoid, but with good reason, it seems, as mysterious men in black keep following him around. Then, exactly halfway through the story, plot twist, we discover that Nash is suffering from schizophrenia and has actually hallucinated people, places, conversations, moments in time, and the entire Secret Service job. None of it is real. But because the story is told so much from his point of view, the plot twist feels as shocking for us as it does for Nash. We don't know what to believe, and we can feel the confusion Nash feels as he struggles with this new reality. Why does the plot twist matter to the protagonist given his desire and fear? Nash is obsessed with recognition for rendering a great service to the world. Coming to grips with his schizophrenia is a disastrous turning point for Nash because it means that not only was his past work insignificant, but he fears that he will never be taken seriously or be successful ever again. Arguably the most impressive thing about the plot twist in A Beautiful Mind is how it's completely hidden. The name doesn't give it away, neither does the tone of the first half of the film. There are clues planted everywhere, but they're so subtle you can't notice them until you see the plot twist. Remember that cognitive science article I referenced last time, how once we know the answer to a puzzle, its clues can seem more transparent than they really were? When we revisit early parts of the story in light of that knowledge, well-constructed clues take on a new, satisfying significance. Those clues are what make a plot twist so satisfying in hindsight, but only if the clues are so subtle that you can't notice them unless you're looking for them. The method used here and in a lot of other stories to expertly hide clues in plain sight is to use red herrings. A red herring is a literary device used to throw off the scent of the reader. Basically the writing equivalent of misdirection. It could be a conversation, a person, an event, an object, anything that makes you think you know what's going on when really just the opposite is going on. For example, in A Beautiful Mind, Nash is in fact invited to the Pentagon to decipher Russian codes. We know this because his friends speak about it with him. All the people at the Pentagon are real except for Parcher, whom no one acknowledges except Nash. Ties to the real world are there and serve as red herrings because they blur the lines between what is true and what the writer wants us to think is true. Highly, highly recommend A Beautiful Mind. It is an exquisite film, even though I totally just ruined it for you. Sorry. Okay, moving along to our next example, which is a totally different genre, but also has a great plot twist, and you probably didn't even know that it had a plot twist. Pride and Prejudice. Elizabeth Bennet doesn't like Mr. Darcy from the first moment she meets him. He's rude, standoffish, and makes it obvious that he would never deign to even look at Elizabeth.
Elizabeth is very agreeable.
Perfectly tolerable, I dare say. Not handsome enough to tempt me.
Tensions rise between them throughout the course of the story, finally coming to a head at the midpoint when, plot twist, Darcy proposes.
I love you. Most ardently.
But even while asking Lizzie to marry him, Darcy manages to offend her. He just had to include that part about going against his better judgment in order to propose to Lizzie. Bad move, Darcy. Now she's offended. But beyond offended, she's shocked. Because Darcy falling in love with her is a plot twist she never saw coming. And it totally changes the game. There are red herrings here too. All of Darcy's interactions leading up to this point don't exactly scream love and affection. And when Lizzie discovers that Darcy had a major part to play in separating Jane and Bingley, we know this turn of events isn't going to end well. Why does the plot twist matter to the protagonist, given her desire and fear? Just when Lizzie thought she had everyone sorted out, all hell breaks loose. She might have been able to forgive Darcy's awkward cold shoulder and find his love profession slightly endearing, had he not brought his massive ego along for the ride and recently smothered his last speck of credibility by ruining Jane's love life.
Do you think that anything might tempt me to accept the man who has ruined, perhaps forever, the happiness of a most beloved sister?
But from the very beginning, we see what Lizzie cares about the most. Her sisters, especially Jane. They share everything and want each other to be happy. This plot twist changes the game for Lizzie because it forces her to keep Darcy's proposal a secret from Jane, lest she reveal the real reason Bingley dumped her and the unfortunate truth about Mr. Wickham. And if you know how the rest of the story goes, you know that all these events just snowball and lead to the impending disaster plot point, and it's just so good. I could do like an entire case study just on Pride and Prejudice alone. But I'll stop there. Next example, also in the same kind of genre because it's a classic, but way more gothic. Great Expectations. Possibly one of the most famous and well-written red herrings in fiction is the entire character of Miss Havisham. Although she has ulterior motives of her own, her role in the story is a major misdirection from the true nature of the plot. When our protagonist, Pip, discovers that he is a wealthy benefactor, both he and the reader assume that it must be Miss Havisham, the elderly, eccentric woman who has taken him in as a playmate for her young ward, Estella. Pip even takes pains to profusely thank Miss Havisham for the free ride, which will elevate him into polite enough society to date Estella. Win-win. But then, around the midpoint of the story, plot twist, Pip discovers that his benefactor is not Miss Havisham, but the escaped convict Magwitch, whom Pip helped as a young boy. Pip is shocked and disgusted as his facade of gentility crumbles. On top of that, it is revealed that Miss Havisham only brought Pip into Estella's life as a means of taking revenge on the man who jilted her at the altar. She has a vendetta against all males of the species and satisfies her sick fancy to cause men pain by methodically teaching Estella how to break Pip's heart. This changes the game, as Pip realizes that he's been believing a lie this whole time. Why does this plot twist matter to the protagonist given his desire and fear? Pip's rags to riches transformation sets the tone for the whole story. He started with nothing and was given an inheritance and, well, great expectations. He desires to fit in with upper-class society and win Estella's heart while he's at it, and he fears being pulled back to square one. The plot twist changes the game because it changes the way Pip sees himself. Magwitch is the last person in the world he wants to be the beneficiary of, and Miss Havisham's plan was never to let Pip and Estella be together. Let's just say his world is sufficiently shattered. Well done, Dickens. That is a really good plot twist. And I especially love it because it's like 2 plot twists in one. Plus like this crazy red herring thing. It's so good. Okay, I promised you there would be a YA contemporary romance example of a plot twist. So for our 4th and final example, let's look at my all-time favorite YA contemporary, Flipped by Wendelin Vendranen. The name kind of gives this plot twist away if you read into the conceptual implications of it. Next-door neighbors Bryce and Julie have always had a weird relationship. For Julie, it was love at first sight. For Bryce, it was strategic avoidance and social discomfort. Despite living right across the street, Julie and Bryce don't really know each other at all. Bryce thinks Julie is eccentric, over the top, and just plain obnoxious. Julie thinks Bryce is wonderful, heroic, and literally flawless. But as 8th grade unfolds, they begin to see the bigger picture. The game-changing midpoint is when, plot twist, everything flips. Bryce realizes he's falling in love with Julie and her eccentricities at the very same moment Julie realizes that Bryce is actually a lying, scheming coward, not her knight in shining armor. Why does this plot twist matter to the protagonists, given their desires and fears? Julie has spent the last 6 years swooning over Bryce and imagining him to be this wonderful person that he really isn't. As some difficult events unfold throughout the first half of the story, Julie is forced to abandon her old beliefs, and we see how game-changing this is for her because of the fantasies she's built up over the years. In a similar but totally opposite way, Bryce's world is forever changed when he realizes that he misjudged Julie, and she's actually a unique and beautiful person. Little does he know, it's too late to be friends or anything more because Julie has seen the light too. I love this game-changing midpoint so much because it ties right into the whole overarching theme. Flipped is a story about changing your perspective, looking at things differently, even if it means tearing down a belief you've stuck to for so long. It's about seeing the truth about people, even when it hurts. Again, I could go on and on and on, but I'll stop there. Please do yourself a favor and read this book or watch the movie because it's almost identical and I love it so much. So in conclusion, the plot twist point is this. Whether your protagonist discovers everything they ever knew was a lie, or they fall in love with their sworn enemy, or some other crazy calamity befalls them, all game-changing midpoints must have one thing in common. They must matter to the characters and change the game going forward. I hope this story case study has given you more clarity on what a game-changing midpoint looks like in a variety of genres. Okay, those are some of my favorite plot twists. Now it's time for you to comment below and tell me what are your favorite plot twists. Stick around because this Story Beat Breakdown series is not over. We're only 50% into your story, remember? We've still got a ways to go. So be sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next video in the series. Smash that like button if you liked this video, and be sure to check out my Patreon because that's where we go beyond videos and take storytelling to the next level. The Patreon community is not only the best way to support what I'm doing here on YouTube, but it's also the only way to connect one-on-one with me and get better guidance on your story. So go to patreon.com/AbbyEmmons and check out all the awesome exclusive content that I have over there for you. Until next week, my friend, rock on. What's up, my friend? Abby here, and welcome. Plot twist, no matter what genre. The method used here. The method, stop. I just can't pronounce words at this point.